I'll just use my organic gavel here. Welcome everybody to this, the third regular meeting of the Penticton Toasties here at the fantastic Penticton Community Center. Or if you want to, you can come and get fit and hone your public speaking skills at the same time. My name is Colin Fisher. I'm president of the Penticton Toasties Toastmaster Club. And our theme for this evening is Toastmasters. Our Toastmaster is Mr. Colt Cash. This evening we have a lot of guests and a full agenda. So keeping us on time and on track is going to put our Toastmasters' Toastmasterizing skills to the test. So without further ado, I will now turn the lectern and the meeting over to our Toastmaster, Colt.
Thank you, Colin, and fellow Toastmasters. Exciting to see so many here from all the clubs in Penticton. Now, I decided our theme would be Toastmasters since we are being filmed for this meeting. And went online to find some historical facts about Toastmasters. It was the first unofficial Toastmasters meeting was March 24th, 1905 in Bloomington, Illinois, started by Rolf Smedley. And it did not become official until October 22nd, 1924 in Santa Ana, California. The first Canadian club, and also the first club outside of the USA, was in Victoria, BC in 1935. And just before we go into our roles, I just want to remind everyone that whether your role is big or small, it will be done up front for the purposes of filming. Our first role is grammarian, which will be done by Isaac of Penticton Toastmasters Club. Please welcome Isaac.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. I am been voluntold to be the grammarian tonight. Actually, no, I volunteered for this position. I heard it's custom here to give the word of the day, which is going to be toast, and the idea is that you knock at this club. It will be interesting because we do not do that at our club. The role of grammarian. I am going to be looking for any dirty language, and what I mean by dirty language is the ums, ers, and ahs, and so's, likes, ands, and run-on sentences. And I will be given a report at the end of the meeting for that. I will have to make a note right now as a grammarian that when you're putting names onto the agenda to make sure you spell the person's name right. It is incorrect to spell Isaac I-S-S-A-C. It is I-S-A-A-C. Mr. Toastmaster.
Yeah, thank you, Isaac. Toastmasters, the main rules do get timed at every meeting. Our timer today is Tammy Rothery of Penticton Toasties. Please welcome Tammy.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As timer, I'm responsible for timing all aspects of the meeting. This includes prepared speeches and our table topics. For the prepared speech, our speaker, Colin, has 5 to 7 minutes to complete his speech. At the 5-minute mark, I'll hold up the green card to indicate that he's made the minimum time. At 6 minutes, I'll hold up the yellow card to let him know he has 1 minute. And at 7 minutes, I'll hold up the red card to let him know that his time is complete. He'll have 30 seconds from there to wrap up. For our table topic speakers, they will have 2 minutes. And I will show the green card at 1 minute, the yellow card at 1:30, and the red card at 2 minutes to let them know that they've reached their time. At the end of the meeting, I will give a report about how everybody's done. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Tammy. Doing the general evaluation and meeting recap today is Jackie Ellis, also a member of Penticton Toasties. Please welcome Jackie.
Well, when I first joined, I was terrified. I was asked to speak at Table Topics, and I think I spoke for about 5 seconds and sat down again. I was absolutely terrified. And as I got more into it, then I got more confident. And I think that's really what, for me, it's what it's all about, is growing in confidence, which seeps into lots of other areas in your life. Not just your job, but your personal life, your social life. And to me, this is quite a sociable club, so it's part of my social activity. Thank you, Toastmaster Colt. Fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. The general evaluator's role is to evaluate the whole meeting, so you have to observe and listen and take note of everything and provide feedback toward the end of the meeting. I won't be evaluating the speech evaluators or the table topics. I will be evaluating the table topics evaluator, that's correct, but not I won't be evaluating Colin's speech, and I won't be evaluating the speakers that speak for table topics, because they have their own evaluator. And that is my role, and I'll provide a report toward the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Jackie. Giving her joke or inspiration today is Raymond Walowinnik. He's a dual member of the Penticton and Penticton Speakers Clubs. Please welcome Raymond.
Thank you very much.
There's this couple that live in Vancouver. And like most couples that live in Vancouver and work there, when they retire, they like to move to the interior of British Columbia, even to Penticton. Now this couple were a strong Toastmaster member in a club in Vancouver. They looked around the interior. They decided they would buy a 5-acre lot up the hill from Princeton, making it really hard for them to be a Toastmaster because there's not many clubs up there. So they bought the property from his wife's sister. The first thing they noticed in September is that it was kind of cold in the house. But they carried on. October, it got really cold in the house. Finally, in November, they checked around, and the house had very little bit of insulation. So the husband says to the wife, "Call your sister and ask her how she survived up here." And his wife gets a phone and puts it down. She says she never spent a winter up here because she went to Mexico every year.
Thank you, Raymond. Today we have one speech. It will be given by Colin Fisher of Penticton Toasties Club. It will be speech number 8 out of the Competent Communicator Manual, which is the manual that all members start with. Dave Folstadt will be the speech evaluator, and I'll get you to read off the objectives. Dave.
Thank you, Toastmaster Colt. Colin will be working on project number 8, which is getting comfortable with visual aids. His primary goal is to present a speech that uses 2 or more visual aids. In addition to that, he will incorporate what he has learned in the previous 7 speech projects, which is having an organized speech, demonstrating the purpose of his speech, word usage, vocal variety, eye contact. We will all be able to provide feedback to Colin later, and I will also be providing my speech evaluation for the benefit of the whole meeting.
Thank you, Dave. The title of the speech is, How Does Waxing Cross-Country Skis Work Anyway? Please help me welcome Colin.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I'll try not to toast myself by running overtime this time. I can use it as a verb, right, grammarian? Guests, Toastmasters. The universe is filled with many mysteries. All those mysteries prompt questions in our minds. Those questions in our minds have us lying awake at night trying to find answers for those questions. Tonight I'm going to give you an answer to one of those questions, to one of those mysteries. And you're thinking, which one is it? Well, I guess the title of the speech gave it away a little bit. But the mystery is, how does waxing cross-country skis work anyway? Now, you've all been lying awake and pondering that question, haven't you? How is it that cross-country skiers on their skinny little skis, pointing straight uphill, can just ski right up a hill and apparently have traction and proceed up the hill confidently, quickly, stably, and then get to the top and ski down the bottom like they're skiing on downhill skis? How does that work? I mean, that shouldn't work. You're defying a bunch of physical properties and physical laws. Well, it has to do with three things: special waxes, special skis, and last but not least, the skill of the skier. So no doubt there are some of you here who do already cross-country ski. And you're thinking, yeah, but Colin, there's actually two different types of skiing. Some of it doesn't use wax. Okay, let's put that to bed. There is skating ski and cross-country classic skiing. Skating skiing, as the name implies, employs a skating style of locomotion. Anybody who's watched a hockey game knows all about skating. Skating on skis is like skating on really long skates. So now that I've clarified that, and it has nothing to do with grip or wax or anything, let's get rid of that. What we're interested in is the classic technique of skiing. As the name implies, that's what skiers have classically used for locomotion. Now, what does that look like? For those of you who haven't seen it on TV or the Olympics, it looks kind of like that. And yes, that's me. I don't have to worry about copyright issues if I use my own picture. It's an old picture. I don't look like that anymore. So it's that upright, sawing, scissoring type gait. Okay, well, I've shown you how it looks, or how it's supposed to look. But how does it actually work? Well, let's visit each one of those three things. Firstly is the wax. What is this special magical wax that we use in cross-country skiing? Well, it's grip wax, and it's a mixture of various types of wax and various types of solvent, the end result of which is a sticky, obnoxious, just terrible goop that you put on the bottom of your skis. Now, this wax has three important characteristics. One is the coefficient of dynamic friction. Grip wax has a very low coefficient of dynamic friction. Dynamic friction is friction between two surfaces that are moving relative to one another. It has a very high coefficient of static friction. Static friction is the friction between two surfaces that aren't moving together. So if they come together with a high coefficient, they stick. It's starting to make sense, right? And lastly, the last property of grip wax is that it will grip ice. It will grip a snowflake. It'll grip a sheer sheet of ice. It will even grip wet, slippery wax. I mean, what does that? Peanut butter doesn't. The next thing is the shape of the ski, and particularly the camber of the ski. Everybody knows what camber is, right? It's the curvature of the ski. If you put it down, the middle of the ski is up in the air and it's only touching at the two ends. Well, a cross-country classic ski has what's called double camber. Now, there are two types of camber. Single camber is what's typical of downhill skiing, alpine skiing. We're not interested in that. Double camber is the kind of camber that if you put a certain amount of weight on the ski deflects, the ski is in contact with the snow at the tip, this end, the tip at that end, and the tail. If you put more weight, such as your full weight rather than half of your weight, then the full ski deflects and you're in contact the full length of the ski. Why is that important? Because this zone here marked in blue is the real curvy part that takes your full weight to press into the snow. That's where we put our sticky, goopy grip wax. So that when you have your skis together and you have your weight evenly distributed, that part of the ski is in the air and the grip wax isn't in contact with the snow. So when you glide downhill, you can glide down just like you're downhill skiing. Light's starting to dawn, right? Makes sense. So that when you're at the top of the hill and you go down, whoosh, down you go, no problemo. But how does that make you go forward? Oopsie. This is a diagram of a really poor style of cross-country technique. Basically, this person is walking, but the idea is they're walking, their full weight is going from one ski to the next ski to the next ski. So with each stride, they're pressing the kick zone down into the snow, and they have grip, so they can actually locomote themselves forward. What the style usually looks like is that. It's a more pronounced gait, higher cadence, and you're moving a lot faster. Now, the difference is that with each stride, you put your weight on one ski and you push off with a lot more force. So you go forward with a lot more velocity, and you slide on the forward ski, even though you have all your weight on it. Well, I've just contradicted myself, right? So what happens is, remember, it has a low coefficient of dynamic friction, so that as long as you're moving, there's hardly any friction. So you can glide even with all your weight on that ski. You will start to slow down. As you start to slow down, as you get more experience, you notice it. And as you slow down, you bring your trailing ski forward and you throw it forward just in time for that ski to come to a grinding halt, and you don't fall forward on your face because your other ski is now in front of you and you're taking your next stride and you're gliding on that ski. And that continues. Everybody clear on that? I see a lot of nods because that's as simple as it is. That's what it looks like. You can see my forward ski is I'm gliding on it, and I'm just about to pull my trailing ski forward so that I don't go over and knock myself out and injure my daughter there. So, Mr. Toastmaster, that is what cross-country skiing looks like in the classic sense, and that is how waxing cross-country skis works, the abbreviated version. Previous to me being retired, as I am right now, I was actually working at the city of Penticton, and I had to do a lot of public speaking, whether it was to mayor and council or to the public or to my peers, fellow members. There are times when I was addressing hundreds of people, and I always felt really that I was uncomfortable, and I was never satisfied with the job I was doing. I knew I had to hone my skills. So I looked around, and ultimately it was the HR department at the city of Penticton that referred me to Toastmasters, and I went, hey, there's the ticket. That's just what I need. And I came to Toastmasters, and since that time, I have improved immensely when it comes to public speaking. And I continue to do public speaking, even though I'm no longer at the city, because it's just a lot of fun. Where else can you capture the attention of a whole big group of people and own it for as long as you're speaking? Toastmasters does that. It provides me great fun, and it provides me personal development.
Evaluating Colin's speech be Dave Folstad of Penticton Toasties Club. Please welcome Dave.
Thank you, Toastmaster Colt. Especially, I want to thank Colin for your speech today. If it was appropriate, I'd give him a toast. The project goal was to get comfortable with visual aids and to use 2 or more aids. I think the main aids that he used were his hands and also the slides that he used. It was very educational. I noticed that he used his hands really well for gestures. And he also described it with very good language. He used a sawing movement or a scissoring movement, which I thought was very Very descriptive. How's that? Speaking of language, I'm having trouble. His goal of the speech was both entertaining and educational, which I thought was very good. His voice was interesting to listen to throughout the speech. It was never monotone. At the beginning, he kind of intrigued us with the way that he opened up, and it was kind of mysterious. He talked about the mystery of waxing cross-country skis, and why it was a mystery, because you have to both be able to slide and climb. He had very strong eye contact. He looked around the room throughout his speech. He tried to include everyone from every corner, and he was looking at people in the eyes, and I thought that was excellent. He never relied on notes, and he wasn't looking over his shoulder to check the slides very much. Definitely one of the things I like about Colin whenever he speaks is that he's very natural, and he also has humor. He feels very genuine to listen to Colin. He doesn't ever look like it sound like he's speaking to you, but he's always speaking out and to the back of the room. In Toastmasters, we also like to try to give someone a gift, which is the points for improvement that we think, from our perspective, they might have worked on. I think Colin would have benefited from taking a moment to just breathe before he started. And it sounded to me like he was a little breathless when he started, and he was all ready to go in his speech, and he knew what he wanted to say. If he just paused for a second, his lungs would have been full and his chest back, and he would have been able to speak a little better. Also, his pace. In any educational speech, or even giving a humor speech, it's nice to have a few more pauses in there so people can absorb the points that you're making and the humor that you're throwing at them. It's difficult with just 7 minutes to cover so much, but Colin did a very good job today.
Thank you, Dave. I always find that Dave is always gives a bit, shows lots of observation, gives very helpful points in his evaluations. Now, before getting into table topics, just mention one other historical fact about Toastmasters. It was in 1970, the first female joined Toastmasters. Her name was Helen Blanchard, under the name Homer Blanchard. And it wasn't until 1973 that women were officially allowed as members of Toastmasters. Before that, there were separate clubs of Toastmasters for the men and Toastmistress for women. But having been a longtime Toastmaster, it's hard to believe that they even did that. Now, on to table topics. Our table topics master today is Tina Siebert of Penticton Toasties. Please welcome Tina.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. Welcome, guests. The purpose of table topics is a very important one. It's to practice our impromptu speaking, which for some of us doesn't come very easy because we never really know what we're going to be asked. So there's always a little bit of an element of surprise. So let's have a toast and get started. Given our theme is Toastmasters, and our mission statement is also very important, which I'll get to shortly, I'm going to ask the question, what is your most preferred Toastmaster role to take and why? And I'm going to ask this question to Bobby. Bobby, what is your most preferred Toastmaster role to take on and why?
Madam Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, and again, welcome guests. Well, the question I have is, What was my most important part of being a Toastmaster? And of course, I've been a president, and I've been a sergeant of arms. And I have to say that being the president of the club is actually a very challenging part of being a Toastmaster, because if the president is kind of the heart of the club, and as the president goes, so does the club. And so what I found very interesting about being the president, the buck stops here. And when something happens, you feel it, because now I know how President Trump feels. Because you're supposed to have all the answers, and you're supposed to know what to do. And so I found that being a Toastmaster and being the president of the club was a very challenging but exciting part of my life. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Bobby. Your experience, I'm sure, is appreciated by all the members of your club for sure. Our mission statement is an important one with Toastmasters. We empower individuals to become more effective communicators and leaders. More specifically, we are cardio for communicators. It's like a workout every Thursday. The next question. What qualities or skills have you developed as a result of being with Toastmasters? And I'll ask this question to Jody.
Madam Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. My most important skills that I've learned through Toastmasters, I joined in February of 1999. And when I first joined, it was actually to go out and do sales presentations. And through Toastmasters, I decided to become a teacher. I went through an education field. And what I found most of all in Toastmasters is it's not the person standing up here talking, it's the people listening. And one of the biggest skills I've learned is the ability to listen and to listen to people and communicate more effectively that way. I think that's one of the most important skills. The main reason I've stuck with Toastmasters is because of all the people I get to meet. And every time someone new joins the club and we get to hear new speeches, I just get so excited and revitalized, and hearing and meeting new people is another huge skill, and that's why I keep coming back. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Jody. Listening is a very important skill, and often we can hear and take it in, but are we actually listening and absorbing what the person's hearing? So being a teacher, I'm sure that skill gets used very frequently, as well as here at Toastmasters. Last question. I've enjoyed the learning experience here, and it's all about listening and getting to know new people and practicing some of our skills and trying to grow and enjoy the experience of being here. And of course, as Colin mentioned earlier, and as Dave knows and provides to us regularly, is the gifts. So you give a gift back, and it's a little point of improvement that we all take with us. The last question is, what does being a Toastmaster mean to you? What does it mean to you? And this question I'll ask Damien.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master, and hello, Toastmasters and guests. What does a Toastmaster mean to me? Well, I can give toast. And it helps me understand how to be a competent leader, how I can give good speeches, how I can listen well, and be a team leader in my community. So I have a brother who also wants to eventually join this club. But right now he's too young, so I'm actually teaching him myself as a leader and telling him how to properly listen, how to give good speeches in his class, and how to make a good life for himself. And that's the end. Thank you. Thank you, Tim. I first joined Toastmasters in September of 2016. I was just starting college, and I saw a booth of the president and vice president of Penticton Speakers that is located at the college. And they invited me to come to a meeting the next day, and now I'm here.
Any favorite memories so far?
My icebreaker. It's the icebreaker. It's your first speech that you give, and it lets you be comfortable talking in front of people.
Thanks, Damien. I'm sure you're a great role model for your brother, and I'm sure he looks up to you, and I hope one day he can become a Toastmaster just like the rest of us here. And that concludes Table Topics, and I'll pass it back to Colt. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. They're very appropriate and relatable questions when it comes to Toastmasters. Table Topics evaluator is O'Christy Wiley of Penticton Toastmasters. Please welcome O'Christy.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters, it's such an honor and a pleasure to be part of your meeting this evening. Our table topics this evening was an education. I have only been in Toastmasters for 2 years, and I know that some have been here for eons. And I love that every meeting we have the opportunity to learn and to grow from one another. Bobby, our first table topics responder, was a beautiful demonstration of a professional. He gave us lovely body language. He looked at each person in the audience. Even when he says the buck stops here, he really pulled us in and made us part of the speech. He demonstrated a true 2 to 3 minute speech. He gave us the introduction, which was renaming the question. He gave us the body, which was his response to the question. And then he gave us the whys and the wherefores, and he really shared a little bit of his heart to us in his response to the question. And then he tied it all up neatly with a bow in the conclusion, stating, this is the question and I have answered it. Here's my response. It was perfect. I'm supposed to give him room for improvement or a little gift of what to develop. My only suggestion, Bobby, is that you spend more time with me so that I can learn to be like you. That's only room for improvement. Jody was our next speaker. Again, Jody is a very seasoned Toastmaster. She gave us a lovely example of body language, eye contact throughout the room. She gave us lovely pacing when she gave us her short story, her introduction, her body and conclusion. In her response, she gave us the words that she used and how she spoke was at a pace where we could hear her, understand her, and absorb what she had to say. And I really appreciate that because listening is not my superpower. She was clear and easy to understand. The only point for improvement is that she was a little breathless. And it's difficult to be the spotlight, even when you are a seasoned Toastmaster. And my note to all of us is just to give yourself time to stop and breathe. We'll pretend that we're just thinking and not panicking. Our final Toastmaster this evening was Damien. And Damien, you gave us lovely eye contact, beautiful body language, and my favorite part of your speech was that even when you were losing what you wanted to say, you still maintained calm, you were composed, you didn't cry or crawl under the table like I would personally be tempted to do. You know, the table topics part of our Toastmasters is 100 times more difficult than giving a prepared speech. It is. I always feel like a deer in the headlights. I panic. Everything inside just goes, oh my. And Damien just gave us a lovely demonstration of staying calm, giving himself an opportunity to think, and knowing that we as his Toastmaster family were supporting him. Madam, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Christy. I really liked her mix of viewpoints and humor. Giving our general evaluation will be Jackie Ellis. Please welcome Jackie.
Thank you, Toastmaster Colt. Fellow Toasties, welcome guest. The role of the general evaluator is to evaluate the meeting as a whole, everything and everyone except the speakers who are already evaluated by evaluators, and then evaluate the evaluators. That should be word of the day. I would get lots of points for that. The general observations, it's a unique meeting tonight. It started a little bit later than usual because we have the cameras here, but it's been set up really well. I guess we could have put some more information downstairs because there were some people that went to the room where we had the area meeting, not the area meeting, the open house. So maybe I could have got here a little bit earlier and put some more information up so that people knew exactly where to go, that we were up here. But we did have the Collins poster downstairs, but it's a big place. It's not always easy to navigate your way around. And Colt did a great job of Toastmaster, very well prepared, and got everyone to introduce themselves at the very beginning of the meeting. And we didn't do the clapping after each person, which saved some time, which was a good idea. And he also gave us sort of a little mini script. He asked us all to introduce ourselves and gave us the instruction to give our name, our club, and how long we'd been in Toastmasters and whether or not we had a role on the executive, which is always interesting for other people to know if they don't know us from our own club. He never left the lectern empty during the meeting, and each transition was completed with a handshake, and the audience applauded until the next person came up to the lectern. I have one little gift for Colt. It's difficult to find anything because he's so experienced. We didn't do a check for the agenda, and he maybe could have provided a little bit of an introduction for Colin before his speech. So that next one is table topics. I love Tina's little demonstration of cardio for communicators, which is our tagline. Very well prepared. Explain the purpose of table topics, which sometimes we forget. It's always good to be reminded. And the topics were not too challenging, but interesting and very relatable because we are all within Toastmasters. She included the guests as well, which I liked. So Jodie and Bobby from 2 different clubs, and then also Damien from our club. The grammarian, Isaac, explained his duties clearly and provided a word of the day. I didn't hear a sort of a sentence that had an example of toast, but we should know what that is, shouldn't we? I'll be interested to hear your report at the end. Tammy explained her timer duties clearly and held up the cards and showed us the signalling and what time she would hold up the cards as well. Then we had Dave, who gave an evaluation of Colin's speech. Dave, I love hearing Dave's evaluations, as I can always learn so much from them. He's always very encouraging and very supportive, gives positive reinforcement and very constructive suggestions. And his suggestion was quite specific, and he suggested taking a moment before starting, suggested pausing throughout the speech, which is something we can all take back to our next speech. And then our Christy was our table topics evaluator, very encouraging to everybody, warm and funny, and no notes. I don't know how you do it without notes. It's sort of a comfort thing for me. And that is my report of General Evaluator. I think everybody's enjoyed the meeting. I hope they have, and welcome you all to come back again. I was quite pleased to get my competent communicator. That was good. And the meetings in Kelowna are fun too. The area meetings are always good fun because you get to meet other Toastmasters from all over BC.
Thank you, Jackie. It was very nicely detailed. Next, giving our grammarian report is Isaac Gilbert. Please welcome Isaac.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. Let's talk about the plague in Toastmasters. Word of the day, everyone said it perfectly because toast is in Toastmasters, so everyone said it. Ums, ers, and ahs, very clean, but the plague, and so. I do it, and I know everyone else does it. It's a big thing that happens, there's a lot of it. I have to say, Colt and David were the only two Toastmasters. Oh, and yeah, Tina, you just had that one and. But David and Colt are the only two Toastmasters that were able to get up here without using and so as run-on sentences or transitions. I've also heard the and so put together as a transition and a run-on sentence while someone was up here. I challenge us Toastmasters to try to get rid of this plague, because it does happen. I know as I'm speaking up here, the one great thing about being a grammarian, I don't count the things that I say. I evaluate everyone else. However, whenever I give the grammarian's report, I try to make sure to use the best grammar, and make mistakes myself. My challenge to everyone is to try to cut out the transitions of so and using and as a run-on sentence. Other than that, it was very clean. I was very impressed with everyone's speaking abilities here at Toasties. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Isaac. Showed you listened very well to all of us. Good report. Providing the timers report will be Tammy Rothery. Please welcome Tammy.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guest. I have to say, we did a really nice job tonight, despite starting off a little bit late. We didn't go too fast, which sometimes can happen when you're nervous, when you feel like people are watching you. But we managed to stay within the normal time allowances for each portion of the meeting. Our opening was just over 7 minutes, which is a little bit longer than allocated, but given the number of guests, quite appropriate. Our grammarian, timer, and general evaluation introductions were all right around the 1 minute mark, which is what they are allocated. Our joke by Raymond was 1 minute and 20 seconds, and Colin's speech was just over at 7 minutes and 15 seconds, so still qualifying and well within what we would expect for someone as verbose as Colin. Our speech evaluator, Dave, gave a bang-on 3-minute evaluation, catching us up a little bit. Table topics were all over the 1-minute mark and under 2 minutes, which I have to admit, my mouth went as dry as toast when I got up here and realized I didn't remember how long they were meant to be, but luckily I have this sheet to help me out, which is a nice part of Toastmasters, that you always have a guide to help you, even when you forget. So all of our table topics were well within time. Our evaluation by O'Christie was 4 minutes, so very well. And our general evaluator and grammarian reports were also within their allotted time. We're a few minutes behind now, but we've caught up for the most part, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Noticed on occasion with those that take on the timer role, sometimes they get so focused on a speech or a talk, they forget that they're timing, but Tammy didn't show any signs of that at all. Next up will be the voting for Best Evaluator, Best Table Topics, with these slips of paper. Just to introduce our winners. Our best table topic speaker is Bobby. Best Evaluator, O'Christie. Congratulations. We'll go to our closing thought, to be done by Jennifer Melasgar, a dual member of Penticton and Penticton Toasties clubs. Please welcome Jennifer.
I joined Toastmasters in the summer of 2011, and I joined because my sister gave it to me as a birthday present. And the reason she gave it to me a birthday present is because she asked me if I wanted a unique present that would improve my speaking skills, and I agreed to it. So that is why I ended up going to Toastmasters and staying in Toastmasters, because I wanted to learn how to speak better.
And what were your expectations when you first joined compared to how you feel about it now?
My expectations when I first joined, I wasn't too concerned about this public speaking aspect of it. I'm very comfortable standing in front of a group of people and delivering a speech. What surprised me about Toastmasters was how much you do beyond speaking. You learn to evaluate others, you provide feedback, and that's actually what keeps me coming back to Toastmasters, because it's really kind of like a volunteer position. You volunteer your time to give your fellow Toastmasters feedback, you volunteer your time to be on an executive. Currently, right now, I have volunteered my time to be the Division K Director, which is covering about 16 clubs, and I support all of those clubs to the best of my ability, and I'm quite enjoying it. Thank you, Toastmaster Colt. This evening, as I sat watching all of my fellow Toastmasters, two of my home clubs being melded together and all of my favorite people in one room, I had to reflect on why Dr. Ralph Smedley founded Toastmasters. When you go out onto the internet and you search public speaking, you can find several places, avenues, schools that you can learn public speaking. But Ralph Smedley had an idea. What he said was, the simple fact is that we grow or learn or work better when we enjoy what we're doing. And this is essentially the secret of a success in Toastmasters. Our meetings are made enjoyable by a fine, helpful fellowship in a pleasant social atmosphere with activities carefully planned. And I find every time I come to a meeting that we have that fellowship, that enjoyment, that humor. Yeah, I'm learning, but I'm also having fun doing it. So it doesn't feel like learning. I hate school. I do not like to go to school. And if you told me that I would be wanting to go week after week after week learning about public speaking, communication, I would have said you were nuts. But Toastmasters, I've found a way to have fun and learn at the same time. The number one thing I can say to someone who has always been thinking about Toastmasters is just come to a meeting. I'd like to say that we have an open house every meeting. When you come to a meeting, you get to see what we're all about. We are very kind, we are very encouraging. So if you've ever thought about joining a Toastmasters club, your number one thing you need to do is step through that door, because you will find out exactly what it means to become a Toastmaster.
Just come along and give it a try. You'll be very welcomed. There's nothing to be afraid of, and you'll definitely grow. You'll get a lot from it.
Don't be scared. Just come to the meeting.
It's an environment that's nice and safe, where nobody is judgmental. We've all been through it. We've all struggled with public speaking, and we've all evolved in our public speaking the same, and some of us are now better than others, but we all start, and we're all encouraging. And one of the things that we emphasize in our club's meetings is that it has to be fun. If it's not fun, people won't want to come. So we make sure that people are having fun while they're learning and honing their public speaking skills.
I will leave you with some final words from Dr. Ralph C. Samedley. Knowledge inspires self-confidence, and knowledge plus confidence will overcome fear of the audience.